Greetings, Saber fans. It's your old pal Megtooth Sith here for the instruction video on this Kanan Jarrus hilt. This is an UltraSabers Kanan Jarrus hilt, and this is the hilt I did the 2-hour and 42-minute install video on. So you can actually watch the install process on this whole saber on my YouTube channel in the tutorial section. This saber is being sold with one 18650 battery. You'll need an external 18650 charger, and you can buy those on Amazon fairly cheaply. But this saber is also going to come with this custom Arkham razor blade plug, and you can see the blade depth on this is enormous. So here's the blade depth. That's incredible. So it's got some blade depth. You know, once you get the blade plug in, you push it tight against the spring, and then you take out a 5/64 Allen key, and you simply tighten the blade retention. So blade retention is this Allen key right here. Leave this alone. This is your Neopixel module retention, so never loosen this. And the cool part about this saber is, just like in the TV show Rebels, this saber does come apart. So first you take the blade or blade plug out, and then you lefty-loosey on the top section with the Suba, and you can separate the two halves. And it doesn't affect the install in any way to take the top half off, because you can see there's no electronics in that part of the install. And then there's your Neopixel adapter, and then you can hang this on your belt, and you could figure out some way to hang this on your belt. The cool part about this top section is I ordered the vented top section. And you know, another thing about the hilt, in case y'all haven't seen it, is this laser etch of a circuit board pattern. That's pretty cool. And also I've added the second auxiliary button here. So this button, instead of it being a bolt, is actually your button, but the control box is still tight on the hilt the way this one nub holds it down, so you're fine. This is a non-illuminated 16mm AV switch, and this is just a tactile button with a brass hat that I've installed. And you know, while this wasn't the perfect solution, it works and it's solid. There's no problems with it. So while we've got the saber broken down, let's go ahead and break it down the rest of the way. So if you ever wanted to change batteries or adjust your sound fonts or reprogram the saber, which I highly deter trying to reprogram the saber, the way I've designed this hilt and the way I've programmed this Proffie on the latest OS, it has color change and save state. So you should never need to adjust the programming. But if you do, you have access to the programming here, and you have access to the SD card here. The SD card, let me get something to point it out. The SD card is located right here. And you're usually going to need tweezers, and sometimes it's easier to take the battery out to get access to the SD card. This is a Hexx Sabers chassis with a spring-loaded battery and terminal, and that's how the battery loads in and loads out. So it's pretty simple to replace the battery. And now that I have the battery out, you can see that I can get at that SD card a lot easier. So there we go. So there we got to the SD. So you can take the SD card out, and I have programmed this SD card with folders and entitled, basically you have the blind folder in here, which is the Kanan Jarrus font, which, you know, I would leave that name blind and I would never change that out. But then you have 11 banks in addition to the blind font. And you just put the SD card back in just like that. You have 11 banks in addition to the blind font, and you can put whatever font you want in any of those banks, and all the other banks except for the white blade are color changing blades. Now the lightning blade is also not a color changing blade, and neither is the Kylo Ren, but all the other blades are color changing blades. So you would just replace the font in those bank folders, and you would change the blade color and then turn the saber off, and it will, you know, be able to restart in that blade color. That's the cool thing about the Proffie Save State feature, is you can change fonts, and then say like you have a Darth Vader font, but you put it in a folder that has a green blade. Well, no problem. You just turn the saber on, put it in Spectrum, rotate it to a red blade, select red blade, turn the saber off. It saves that blade, so your new Darth Vader font now has a red blade. Once you replace the battery, I didn't show this because it's so common in all my installs, but I actually have some T8 shroud here, which is a protective shroud, and it's designed to protect the board and the battery. So you just pull that shroud up over your board onto the chassis, just like that, and you can see it covers there. And then you want to give it a slight twist and insert the chassis. Do not push on the speaker membrane, only push on the outside edge of the chassis where it's plastic here. You don't want to push against the speaker. You can actually use the pommel to push the chassis somewhat in and start threading your pommel, and the pommel will go ahead and send the chassis on home where it locks in. And so now the chassis is locked in. You can see there's no rattling around in there. And we're going to put our saber head back on. And then we're going to go ahead and reinstall our blade plug for the rest of the demonstration. So we're going to go ahead. I'm holding a little bit of tension, pushing the blade plug down in the hilt so it gets good contact with the Neopixel connector. So to operate the saber, once you get it, and to be honest with you, unless you're changing the font files, you really never need to crack the saber open to get to the chassis, because this saber is equipped with an external recharge port. To demonstrate color change, so here it is really quick. Ignite the saber, press the power button, and knocks. Put you in Spectrum mode. Now Spectrum works on this hilt either around in a circle like that. So let's lock it in. Let's try to find a red blade, and we'll lock it in on a red blade. There it is, locked in on a red blade. And once I retract it and I put in the kill key, and then I pull the kill key out, still red. Gotta love that. So it remembers the color you set. So let's put it back to its blue that it's supposed to be. All the blades on this are color changing, by the way, and it remembers the colors, and not only that, it remembers the font you're in when you turn it off. So if you turn it on in font 5 and then you put the kill key in, when you take the kill key out, it's still going to be in font 5. Stick tight for that demonstration video of the rest of the saber. Greetings, saber fans. It's your old pal Megtooth Sith. What I have here is an UltraSabers Kanan Jarrus hilt. And this is the hilt that I installed in the installation Proffie 2.2 installation tutorial. It's got Jeff Birch's chassis in there. It's got dual button setup, external kill key, and user changeable batteries if you need, but you can recharge in the external port, and the external port also acts as an on and off switch. So I'm going to pull the kill key.
I am Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Knight.
And then we'll get into demonstrating the saber. The first font is Kanan Jarrus. It's Blind Cowboy by Kyberphonic, Jesse Kirkbride. This is Kyberphonic sound fonts. There's your ignition. Lockup. It's a localized lockup. Fernando de Rosa did that localized lockup. And it also has cooling effects, blaster box. Force sounds?
You're making it easy on me. You'll have to do better. I can sense your presence. I can sense your presence.
Tip drag. Retraction. To get a sound bank on this, you can, and guess what? Star Wars Rebels, ignition. Next font. This is a New Hope training, and the background on this is the Millennium Falcon. There's your blade. Force sounds.
Screaming about to contact you.
Yeah, that's not wise, is it?
Screaming about to
Retraction. Next one.
Pastime. Kill it if you have to.
Kylo Ren, the background music is Kylo Ren's theme, but I'm not going to play it, but boom, there's Crossguard by K-Sith. Smooth swing with accent. Walk up. Force sounds. Blaster blocks. Retraction.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
K-Sith, Rogue One Vader. You're in the movie.
Hello there.
This is a Negotiator by Fonts by Fuerza. Background track should be Obieni, which it is.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
Localized lockup on all these blades. This is going to be my lightning blade. I just haven't put it on there yet. This will be lightning blade, and the background track on that, of course, is Ride the Lightning. I'm sorry, Call It Tulu by Metallica on the Ride the Lightning album. That's just a green stock sound font, and the background track on that is Jabba's Palace.
purple.
There's your purple, it's a stock purple font.
White. Yellow.
That's a cool font right there. That font is awesome.
Team C. Smooth gray.
Smooth gray to your rainbow blade. So the background track on that. The Cantina Band. last is your battery blade, which is awesome. And the background track on that, Mandalorian. So, thank you everybody for watching. This saber is going to be for sale on my YouTube channel initially. If it doesn't sell on my YouTube channel and the price point's listed in the doobly-doo, then I will be putting it on Facebook, and we'll go from Facebook groups to eBay, but usually they sell on YouTube. So if you see this video and you want the saber, if it's still marked for sale, it's still for sale. The saber will go to the first customer that comes in. But if you stand by, we'll get to the instructional video on this saber, and you can see this saber getting built and installed on my 2-hour and 42-minute installing a Proffie 2.2 video.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
So thank you everybody for watching, and stick tight. We'll get to the instructional video. Alright, so now that we've got the saber all assembled, let's show you how to operate this puppy. So, number one, first thing we do is pull the kill key.
I am Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Knight.
Do not lose the kill key, set that to the side. So the saber is booted in the first font. So here we go. These are the simple instructions. Number one, to initiate a soundtrack, and every font has a soundtrack. Now you can choose to initiate the soundtrack or you don't have to. Every font has one. You can either play with the saber without music going, or you can activate music. If you want the music on while you're playing with the saber, what you do is you press the power for 2 seconds. When 2 seconds turns it on, 2 seconds turns it off. Now, I'm going to leave it off so you guys can hear me, because this saber is pretty freaking loud, as you can tell. So, to ignite the saber when it's in the off condition like this, simply press the power button. And the saber ignites, and you can see the blade plugs lit up and illuminated. So the saber's ignited. Clashing the saber. Now let's show you how to get the auxiliary functions. So number one, to get a force down, double tap power while the saber's ignited.
You'll have to do better. You'll have to do better.
To get a blaster block, a brief press of the auxiliary button. To get lockup, press and hold auxiliary. To get tip drag, point the saber down and press and hold auxiliary. Now, while the saber is on, to get into the color changing mode, press power and press aux. Then you're in Spectre mode. You can turn the saber, and as you turn the saber, you get the different colors popping up. And I want this color, so I'm going to press power to lock it in. And it's locked in. It will save whatever color you lock it in as. Now I'm going to deactivate the saber. Now, to advance fonts, you briefly press aux when the saber is off. This is the New Hope training. The background track on this one is like a cinema track, so it's the background from the Millennium Falcon. It has the training drone noises that Luke was, trying to deflect blaster shots. With his blast shield down, now I can't see anything. Don't trust it. Your eyes can fool you. Don't trust them. Use the force, that whole thing. That's this scene. So that's the background track on this. Now, I want to show you some other auxiliary functions on Proffie. Number one, when the saber is off like it is now, it's in idle, you can press and hold auxiliary.
4.03 volts.
And it gives you...
Come back to say you forgive me. Take my soul.
Ah, come on. Sorry about that. I'm doing different button presses. But anyway, the bottom line is when you press and hold the auxiliary button, you'll get voltage speak.
4.03 volts.
Now that's a press and hold. Now, when the saber is off and idle like it is now, if you press auxiliary for 2 seconds, and 2 seconds only, 1, 2, now you're in the volume menu. You can increase volume by pressing power, decrease volume by pressing aux. That's totally down as far as it'll go. To get out of the volume menu also requires a 2-second press on aux. 1, 2, and you're out. And there's a tone saying you're out. I'm going to go back into the volume menu and increase the volume. 1, 2. Increase it all the way. That's all the way up. Now, if you find yourself, you got the saber in idle and you're pressing buttons and you're getting these beeps, beep, 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 you're in the volume menu. 2-second press on the aux will get you out. 1, 2, you're out of the volume menu, it ignites. Another trick on Proffie is you can ignite it in mute with a double click on power. There you can see it's ignited, but it's in mute. That's an energy saving option that you have on Proffie. And again, to advance to all the presets is a short click on aux. So that explains all the button functions. It's relatively easy and you'll get the hang of it. You just need to do some work. Let's talk about putting a blade in this saber. So when we're ready to put a blade in the saber, we turn the saber over, the same side of the saber that the recharge port is on. We have this 5/64 Allen screw. Oops, I'm sorry. That one's going to be, yeah, that's 5/64. So I had a bigger key out for some reason there. So we'll take this 5/64 Allen screw and we're going to back it out to take the blade plug out. And there again is the blade plug, which you can see that blade depth is significant. That thing is huge. That's the biggest blade plug I think I've ever built. So this saber definitely has some extensive blade depth on it. And now we're going to install a Neopixel blade. I'm going to go across the room here to get one. And we're going to install the blade into the saber just like this. Now once this blade is into the saber, you want to hold it tight and then tighten that 5/64 while you're holding some tension in on the blade so it's compressing against the spring compressors. And then once it's compressed against the spring compressors, we should be good to fire. So let's turn these lights off and see if I did it right. I did. That's awesome. So let's retract the saber and let's go to a different font.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
Pretty sure this blade has color changing, so let's ignite. This is going to be red when we ignite. And we're going to go into color changing. So I'm going to press power and aux. And then I can rotate the hilt to get different colors. And of course this is a Darth Vader font, so I definitely want a red blade. So I should be getting to, red is right. Red is really hard to get on this. There, got it locked in on red. When we retract the saber, should still ignite in red, and it does. We're in business. To take the blade back out of the saber, let's turn the lights back on so you guys can see what's going on. To take the blade back out of the saber, I take my Allen key and reverse the process that we did in the beginning. I remove the 5/64 Allen screw, just loosen it so you can get the blade out. The blade slides right out just like that. And then I'm going to get this ginormous blade plug. Look how long that thing is. That's ridiculous. How long is this blade depth? 4 inches of blade depth. That is insane. That is the longest blade plug that I've ever made. But you know, it's pretty cool that you have that much blade depth. This would be a good saber for a heavy duty Neopixel blade. Then you tighten that in all the way, hit ignition, bada bing, it's working. Turn that off, and then we're going to put the kill key back in, but I'm going
Hello
to...
there. Team C.
Smooth gray, smooth gray.
The Force will be with you. Always.
I'm going to put it in the Kanan Jarrus font and ignite the saber. And then put the kill key back in. And thus ends the demonstration portion of this video. This lightsaber will be for sale. The lightsaber includes the install, the hilt, the blade plug, 1 battery, and the sound fonts that are installed on this saber. The price point on this saber is listed in the doobly-doo at the bottom of the video, and first come, first served on this one. And I'm sad to see this hilt go because I really had a good time installing this, and this is the same saber I did the 2-hour and 42-minute install video on installing a Proffie 2.2. So this is a really cool saber, and the owner's going to be really lucky to own this thing. It's super nice. Thank you everybody for watching. May the Force be with you, or the dark side as it were.